Welcome to this special explainer. Today we're diving into a story that feels, well, it's deeply nostalgic, but honestly, it's a little bit ominous too. It's a story about time, family, and the hidden, almost invisible costs of progress. Think about it. We look at the trajectory of our lives and we just naturally assume that things are going to keep getting better, softer, and easier for the generations that follow us, right? We're convinced we're building this permanent staircase straight upwards, away from the struggle. But what if we aren't? What if, instead of climbing a staircase, we're actually just riding a wheel? The text we're breaking down today centers around this singular, haunting prophecy from a grandfather who, frankly, saw the world way more clearly than most of us do. Listen to this staggering prediction. Your grandson will ride in a BMW one day, but my great-grandson will walk again barefoot. That is the actual, startling prophecy an old man delivered to his grandson. And man, it really opens up this incredible cinematic curiosity gap. Just think about that trajectory for a second. We go from the absolute pinnacle of modern luxury, a BMW, straight back to walking barefoot in the mud of a paddy field. It totally defies everything we're taught to expect about progress and generational wealth. And the grandfather doesn't say this with anger either. He says it with this calm, almost chilling certainty. Naturally, the narrator of our source story is completely shocked. He looks at his grandfather and asks one simple, desperate question. Why? Why will it be like this? How on earth does a family climb all the way up to the heights of comfort, only to plunge right back to the starting line? Okay, let's dive into this, because to truly wrap our heads around the grandfather's prediction, we first need to map out exactly how this family managed to arrive at this point of absolute luxury in the first place. To make sense of that drastic return to the mud, we've got to trace this family's incredibly rapid physical and economic ascent over 4 distinct generations. It's basically a perfect microcosm of the modern world. We're going to trace the steps of the grandfather, the father, the narrator, and finally, the son. And what you'll probably notice right away is that the defining characteristic of this entire journey isn't just the accumulation of wealth. No, it's the systematic, deliberate elimination of physical struggle. This journey tells an unbelievable story of acceleration. So, we start with Generation 1, the grandfather, literally walking 10 miles a day through raw nature. Then Generation 2, the father, now off his feet, riding a bicycle rickshaw. Things are moving a bit faster, getting a bit easier. Then boom, we hit Generation 3, the narrator, driving a Toyota Premio, totally enclosed in machinery. And finally, Generation 4, the son, riding in a massive, luxurious Land Cruiser. Do you notice how the speed of comfort just massively accelerates? From walking, to riding, to driving, to being chauffeured in absolute limitless luxury. In just 4 generations, the entire way the human body interacts with the physical world has been completely transformed. Let's zoom in on where this whole thing began, and this brilliantly illustrates the grueling physical reality of the first generation. The grandfather was barefoot on actual mud paths. He walked 10 miles every single day. He literally felt the cold morning dew on his bare feet, He had a towel tied around his waist, a heavy hoe resting on his shoulder. Rain or shine, his journey was completely unstoppable. He was directly exposed to the elements. There was absolutely no barrier between his body and the earth. He didn't just endure his environment, he was forged by it. We're talking about raw, immense human resilience. But watch how quickly that visceral connection to the earth just fades away as comfort accelerates. First up, the father. He gets off the mud path, sure, but he's still out there dealing with the street dust and the sweat while riding a rickshaw. He's shielded from the mud, but he's definitely not shielded from the elements. But then, the narrator. The dust and sweat of the father's era, they dissolve completely. The narrator escapes the heat entirely inside an air-conditioned Toyota. If it gets warm, he just reaches over and turns at the AC. And finally, the son. He's placed in this tall Land Cruiser with dark-tinted windows. He is completely enclosed, insulated, and totally separated from the outside world. The comfort is just limitless. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the stark contrast it creates. On one hand, we have the physical endurance of the past. The mud, the sweat, the blazing sun, the pouring rain. It looks incredibly harsh, and let's be real, it was. But it built undeniable strength. On the other hand, we have the vulnerability of the present. Air conditioning, luxury cars, tinted windows. The environment is perfectly controlled. But our source text makes a really profound observation here. As this comfort increases, so does a hidden, creeping weakness. Because by removing every single physical obstacle, the newer generations are unknowingly losing the exact endurance that built their family's success in the first place. And this brings us to the core philosophical reveal of our explainer today. The grandfather didn't just see a Land Cruiser, you see. He saw what the Land Cruiser actually represented. He deeply understood the wheel of time. This is the profound, somewhat terrifying realization that endless comfort inevitably breeds the exact conditions for future hardship. History isn't a straight line going up and to the right. It's a wheel. It continuously turns. The grandfather knew that the absolute removal of struggle doesn't create some perfect utopia. It creates fragility. So the crucial point is the mechanism of this wheel, which plays out in 4 very distinct steps. Step 1. Hard times create strong men. Just like the grandfather out there in the muddy fields. Step 2. Strong men create easy times. The grandfather's relentless, back-breaking work paid off, allowing his kids and grandkids to ride in cars. Step 3. Easy times create weak men. The air-conditioned, fully insulated life of the Land Cruiser requires basically zero physical or mental endurance. And finally, Step 4. Weak men create hard times. Because the endurance is gone, the wealth and stability simply cannot be maintained, and the great-grandson is eventually forced right back into the mud. It's a timeless, almost inevitable sociological cycle. The grandfather places his hand on his grandson's shoulder and delivers this stark warning. You must build your body and mind. Otherwise, as the wheel turns, everyone will return to the mud of the paddy field. He's basically telling him that the wheel is already in motion. The easy times are already here, which means the weakness is already setting in. If the family just decides to coast on the comfort of the Toyota and the Land Cruiser, gravity is going to pull them right back down. The return to the mud isn't just a possibility. Without serious action, it is an absolute certainty. But hey, this isn't just a story of inevitable doom and gloom. Let's move to and see how this builds into something highly actionable. We can actually break the cycle. The grandfather didn't share this philosophy just to cause despair. He shared it to wake his grandson up. He explicitly stated that there is a way out. Yes, the turning of the wheel is a massive, powerful force of nature and sociology, but human willpower has the ability to interrupt it. We're essentially left with 2 paths. On the left side, we have the default path, surrendering to the turning wheel. This just means accepting the endless comfort, enjoying the AC, avoiding all physical strain, and quietly allowing that inevitable weakness to take hold. But on the right side, we have the active path, forging yourself. The source material heavily emphasizes that only those who intentionally make themselves tough, who actively choose to build a hardened body and mind, despite living in super easy times, can actually escape this trap. You literally have to manufacture your own hardship when the world stops providing it for you. And that leaves us with this final, lingering thought. The text reminds us that the paddy field path never actually disappears. The mud, the struggle, the hard times, they are always waiting right there, just beneath the glossy surface of our modern comforts. The wheel of time is always turning. The only question is, will the next generation be forced to walk that muddy path barefoot, or will they be strong enough to forge a totally different way? It's a question every single one of us, sitting in our own comfortable lives, has to answer. Thank you for joining me on this explainer, and I highly encourage you to really reflect on where you and your own generation currently sit on that turning wheel.